Beautiful body. There's so much beauty in this beautiful body. There's so much beauty in this beautiful body. I'm at peace in my own skin. I'm a river of love that keeps on flowing. From one lost peak I find I'm growing. In the tumble and toss I wake up knowing I'm at peace in my own skin. There's so much beauty in this beautiful body. There's so much beauty in this beautiful body. There's so much beauty in this beautiful body. I'm at peace in my own skin. And the mirror of life says keep on gazing, a light through the dark, grace amazing from one little spark. A fire is blazing, I'm at peace in my own skin. There's so much beauty in this beautiful body. There's so much beauty in this beautiful body. There's so much beauty in this beautiful body. I'm at peace in my own skin. And sorrow, joy, a promise keeping, I catch the rush of one heart beating. Toast to the edge, I was made for leaping. I'm at peace in my own skin. There's so much beauty in this beautiful body. There's so much beauty in this beautiful body. There's so much beauty in this beautiful body. I'm at peace in my own skin. I'm at peace in my own skin. Oh, this is very strange. It's a beautiful day. I've talked with my daughter for Mother's Day, and she's in Alberta, and I'm missing her this morning, but it's like everything is okay, and I have no idea who's out there. I'm busy talking to my rectangle on the table and seeing a picture of myself and thinking, oh, my hair is getting grey, and that's all right too. So this is one of the songs from the congregational book. It's one of the ones I do know. It's In Every One of Us, that one. It's in every one of us to be wise. Find your heart, open up both your eyes. We can all know your eyes. We can all know everything without ever knowing why. It's in every one of us, by and by. It's in every one of us, by and by. Thunderous roar of applause. My dog appreciated. No, he's still sleeping. Oh. I was meant to keep track of the time in order to know if I'd gone over my 10 minutes or not, and I didn't. And so here I am, human, having a very strange experience. So I'm going to ask if I meant to do one more song, or is this good?
Just go ahead. Let's do that.
Oh, okay. I wrote this song for my women's group, looking at the smallness of us in the bigness of it all, as mothers, daughters, wives. Weaving, walking through our joy and sorrow, laughing as the tears roll down our cheeks. Listen to the story in the silence, for there are truths we never have to speak. And we sing, we sing, and we sing, we sing. And sometimes we are flowers in spring, emerging through the cold black soil up into light. And sometimes we are small birds seeking soaring, and we're stretching out our wings and taking flight. And we sing, we sing, and we sing, we sing. I am mother, I am lover, I am sister, I am life. I am birthing, and I am unearthing. I am poet, I am priestess, I am love, I am life. And gracious Goddess, bathe us in your passion, the bread of life, the dark red purple wine, and fulsome fertile Gaia's womb expanding, where honey sweet with the feminine divine, and we sing, and we sing, we sing. And we sing, we are moonlight in a universe unfolding. And we sing, we are life's pleasures, softest, sweetest sigh. And we sing, we are round and heavy, breasts and belly, mountain peaks and dark, deep valleys. We are singing, we're blue on the edge of a new sunrise. And we sing, and we sing, we sing. Thank you.
Well, good morning and welcome to Unity of Vancouver Spiritual Center. It's our pleasure to welcome you on this beautiful Mother's Day. And we do want to wish all mothers and all people that have mothers a very wonderful Mother's Day. Unity of Vancouver is an inclusive spiritual community, and we warmly welcome all people, all faiths, and all lifestyles. But we also reserve the right to accept absolutely everybody. So welcome on this beautiful day. We always like to start the first few moments with a little bit of levity. So I'd like to share with you some notes that have been written by mothers in preparation for Mother's Day. The first one says, "Some days I do yoga and don't yell at my kids. And some days I scream at them while eating cake over the kitchen sink. It's called balance." Another one comes in that is kind of cute that says, "I love it when I find myself screaming, 'Stop screaming,' at my kids. That's how I teach them irony." And last but not least, well, second last but not least, this one, "Silence is golden, unless you have kids, in which case it's kind of suspicious." And this one will be a little bit of a thought starter. Why don't they have Mother's Day sales? The answer is because mothers are priceless. So with that said, let us now turn to the service. Let it begin with our recitation of the One Power Affirmation. All together now, there is one presence and one power active in the universe and in my life. God, the good, omnipotent. And just before we get started, we just would like to highlight a few of our upcoming events. And the first one is very exciting for myself and anybody else who knows Mark Nepo. Mark Nepo, the #1 New York Times bestselling author of the Book of Awakening, as well as 21 other published books, will be joining us to, like dedicated, just doing a service for us next weekend. And that service will be tailored to our needs in this moment, and it will be entitled Growing in Place. And Mark will share his thoughts and ideas around the meaning of what we're all going through with the corona, but it's deeper spiritual meanings and how we can use this time and this specific event in our lives to actually turn, well, to find the silver lining, if you will, to turn the negative into a positive to the best of our ability. And so that'll be next Sunday. Be sure to tune in. And if you're familiar with Mark, and you're comfortable with it, if you could share the news of the fact that we will have Mark speaking in Vancouver to Vancouver this coming Sunday by maybe forwarding an email or letting your friends know, that would be most appreciated. Also, during the week, we have a number of classes, typically in the evenings. The Quest being the first one, which resumes on May the 13th at 7:30 p.m. and that will run for 4 consecutive weeks. The theme starting off this week is Thanksgiving. A grateful heart opens many doors. And this is an opportunity to explore each week a unique spiritual concept and do it in small groups. So there's breakout sessions that happen in the Zoom rooms, and you can go in and make new friends and connect, which, obviously we're all having a little less of typically these days. So come to that on Wednesday night. As well, our daily meditation is continuing. Those morning classes are for those that are up and about at 7 a.m. And what a beautiful way to start the day by being centered and going inward. Many people feel that it really sets the tone for the whole day. In fact, I was just reading the other day that the NBA most winning coach, Phil Jackson, who is known as the Zen master coach, that he told all of his players that when you start by knowing that you have this calm center within you, it makes it that much easier to find it at any point throughout your day, no matter what comes up. So we invite you to join us at 7 a.m. Together with Will and Cynthia for quiet reflection. As well, we have another Conscious Conversations event coming up this Tuesday, May the 19th. And that is will run from 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. This month's edition is an interesting one because it's intended to provide you with a sneak peek behind the curtain of a TEDx event. We've all seen TED Talks and TEDx Talks. This will be hosted by the program coordinator for TEDx Bear Park events, Mr. Noel Bentley, as well as Janet Law, and it will provide you with tips on how to create and deliver a clear and powerful message. So you will discover how to, package, if you will, an idea or concept that you're passionate about and how to communicate it more clearly. And even if you're not interested in doing a TEDx talk, it will be a fascinating event because it will also include a 14-minute TED Talk that was just given recently, a TEDx talk by Darlene Ely, who has the unique perspective of having been a 911 operator for many, many years. And she's going to talk about that experience and the impact that it has on those that pick up the phone at that very special phone number. As well, Course in Miracles, a beautiful course of study, continues online with Marianne Dick, Margaret McLeod, and Fern Logan, Tuesdays between 1 and 3. And that's in the afternoon, obviously. So, if you want to, find yourself with some time on a Tuesday afternoon, what could be better than getting into some of that discussion with Marion, Margaret, and Fern. It's also available on Thursday evenings at 9 p.m. So that's a great one. And last but not least, Cynthia and Will's Monday evening Sangha resumes on May the 18th at 7 p.m. Now, not everybody knows what a Sangha is, so I thought I'd take just a moment to explain that its traditional definition is essentially community. So in certain teachings, in Buddhist teachings, it's said that there are the 3 jewels on the spiritual path. First, the teacher, then the teachings, and then the community in which you actually live them. And so the Sangha comes together as a group of people who are specifically acknowledged to be on the spiritual path. And ideas are shared, and then communication happens again in the Zoom small rooms so that you can more deeply integrate them and not just hear them, but take them in and remember them as you live your life going forward. So all of those events, by the way, are easily accessed by simply going to your email, searching for Unity Center and looking for the one that has the title Links, Class Links, and you go in under Class Links and you'll find the link for whichever class you're interested in. You just click it and that'll take you straight onto Zoom. If you are not currently receiving our emails, just simply send an email to unityvanoffice@gmail.com, or you can go to our website and click there to sign in on or to subscribe to our newsletter. So we welcome you to do that. It's a simple process, And it's a great way to have connection because most of our weekday programs do provide these breakout rooms where you'll meet new people and be able to talk about these spiritual topics as well as whatever's going on in your life. So with our announcements out of the way, let us all just take a deep breath in and release. And another deep breath in and release. And just start to feel the silence that surrounds you as we prepare now to recite the English version, the New English translation of the Aramaic version of the Lord's Prayer. Holy Spirit, creator and life of all, create a space inside us and fill it with your presence. Let oneness now prevail. Your one desire flows through ours as energy fills all forms. Give us this day our physical and spiritual nourishment. Untangle the knots of error that bind us as we also release others. Don't let appearances make us forgetful of the source, but free us to act from our highest nature. From your presence comes the glorious harmony of life. May these words be fertile ground from which our future grows. Amen. And now, Cynthia.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure and a joy to be here with you. And you may notice it's a little different for those who have been with us on the online services over the past several weeks. You notice that Randy has taken the service of providing the platform announcements and everything. And then Will's here, but he's off from this screen. We're going to play with this today, and I'm going to do the meditation in a minute, and then Will's going to come on for the talk, and you'll see some movement there. We're just learning how we can support best for providing the best service for you. And so, Randy, it's really nice to have you share in this, and we're hoping that we'll have other platform leaders come on over the time and get the dynamic service going online at an even greater level. So this is the time that I'm going to invite you in a minute just to close your eyes. But before that, I just want to bring forward the names of my maternal lineage. And I had a professor during seminary, Dr. Vincent Harding, who said it's very important for us to know the names of our mother, our grandmother, our great-grandmothers, and so that we know where we came from. So my mother's name is Rhoda Gale Croce, and my grandmother's name was Pearl Cornelia Swearingen, and her mother, my great-grandmother's name, was Bertha Gregg. My daughter's name is Emily Christina Gale Fisher, and now her daughter's name is Melody Christina McIntyre. I'm still tripping on that one because she just got married. So, and I'm Reverend Cynthia Gale Bricks. And there's the maternal line. And that's what Mother's Day is all about. Some of you may have heard that a mother, when a woman is pregnant with her child, if the child is a girl, then that baby, that fetus and embryo, and then the little girl that's being created carries within her womb over 2 million eggs. So when she is born, she is carrying some of the eggs, maybe the egg, that will be the grandchild of the mother. And so, and it's that fractal that Will talks about, that microcosm fractal that carries on. So just as we close our eyes now for our meditation, I invite you into that cosmic space, if you will, of thinking and being in your hearts, connecting the mind and the heart together. And first in our meditation, as we close our eyes and take a deep breath in together, to just think about your lineage, your maternal lineage. And maybe you know the names of your mother, your grandmother, your great grandmother. Maybe you know it even further back than that. But call them into your heart right now. Just their names, to honor and recognize the lineage, the maternal lineage of which you were born into this world, into this incarnation. And if you have daughters and granddaughters, then you can call their names silently in your heart as well. Or if you want to call them out loud, you can. And just imagine that line, that ancestry of what holds us here in this moment. The past generations, the future generations of which we are a part. And in our honoring of Mother's Day today, our relationship with our mothers or our grandmothers, and maybe with our daughters, might be as joyous and celebratory as one could ever hope. But there are also the tensions in relationships, and I just want to honor that place, that if you have been in relationship with your mother, grandmother, daughters that carry tension and challenge and strife, then to honor that as well. And know that's part of your incarnation, part of what we come into this world to work on as conscious beings. And sometimes those difficulties can be resolved and sometimes they can't. But we, as a conscious community and conscious individuals working on our spiritual path, hold that place of learnings, of opportunity. We hold that place gently in our hearts as we are with this day of Mother's Day. And so as we sit in our meditation right now, to just honor the tensions that come along with mothering or being mothered. And right now, as we're in this sheltering in home time, I've heard from many mothers of the challenge of being a mother and homeschooling your children. If you're a younger mother and you have children at home, it's bringing into light a whole nother level of what it is to be a mother at home with your children full time. And so let's just take a moment to gently hold the mothers in our heart who you know, the women you know in your life, who maybe have small children or teenagers or adult children, wherever you want to take this. Hold them in your heart with love, with tenderness, with a prayer for them to move through this time with ease and grace. And I've heard from several people also that Their mothers live from in a distance, many miles sometimes away, or maybe a short distance, but you're not able to see them right now. You're not able to be with them, and trying to figure out their care and how they're best sustained and kept safe in this time of the coronavirus. That's also a challenge. So just take a moment to hold them in your hearts. The mothers who are all alone or live a distance away and you can't be with them right now. And these may be your biological mothers, or it may be women who were mother figures in your life. Wherever that fits in. I have the woman that's in my life right now who's alive is my stepmother. My mother has passed. So my stepmother has given me so much love. So just take a moment to hold those women who have been mothers or mother figures in your life. And then find the mother who is in you, the mother who holds you when maybe your mother, biological mother, or your mother figure couldn't hold you. Find that mother within your own heart. And sometimes that's hard to recognize. Sometimes that might be difficult to find. But it's the feeling of being cared for, the feeling of being held and loved and nurtured and nourished. That feminine aspect of yourself. That mother within yourself is also the fierce, powerful, strong, determined woman. She is the feminine. So this is for the men, people who identify as men as well. That feminine part of yourself. And the women, the females in this group as well, to find that strong, fierce, passionate, feminine part of yourself and just honor her, because she is, if you will, the mother of all mothers that can stand up as protector of herself, protector of her children, protector of the children of the world. Even if you don't have children, it is that part of yourself that mothers yourself, both in the kind and compassionate and nurturing way, but also in the strong and determined and passionate, self-giving way. So honor that in yourself. Celebrate those parts of yourself that maybe your own mother or your mother figure celebrated you or didn't celebrate you, and it needs to be celebrated now, needs to be honored. And if it's difficult to find those places, then I encourage you throughout today, and as this is Mother's Day, to really look at that and see if you can play with that a little bit. Not get too serious about it, but just to be gentle with yourself and find where that mother within yourself is. And call her forward. because even though I spoke about the women in my life and the maternal line, we all have that maternal line. And that is in our DNA. It flows through us. So we have all learned how to be mothers. And our work as conscious beings is to evolve and grow and be even more in that feminine mothering image, the archetype, as we can, and grow beyond and evolve beyond what even our own mothers or our mother figures taught us. So this is your opportunity to really honor both your outer mothers, grandmothers, mother figures today, but also to honor that mother in yourself. Peace be with you.
Deep winter's dormant dream of what new days of warmth will bring, and I, small green, burst through the soil. I'm trembling, birthing into spring. I'm trembling, birthing into spring. Oh, goddess, goddess, thy love is Lord of all. The wind blows through my rustling leaves, delighting twig and branch and limb, and I, a tree, I'll sway and bend. I'm trembling, coming close to him. I'm trembling, coming close to him. Oh, goddess, oh, goddess, mother of us all. Oh, feminine divine, around thy heart may love entwine, around thy heart may love entwine. My womb sings life, around me grows
So, happy Mother's Day. A special note of honor to all of the mothers out there. And you are indeed priceless, as Randy's joke made clear. So as we celebrate Mother's Day today, I also want to invite us to celebrate the Divine Mother. So as we say Happy Mother's Day, we can also say Happy Divine Mother's Day. Because ultimately Mother's Day is every day. Not just once a year, but every day of the year. And in some ways, every moment of life. Why? Because as the Book of Wisdom tells us, the Divine Mother pervades and penetrates all things. She is a breath of the power of God, a clear effluence from the glory of the Almighty. She is the radiance that streams from the everlasting light, the flawless mirror of the active power of God. Very remarkable here that we have from the Book of Wisdom. She is the flawless mirror of the active power of God. And we have the same thing in the Hindu tradition, where Shakti, excuse me, where Shakti, the divine feminine, is the active power of God. And so we have this same kind of theological understanding of the divine feminine in both the Western and Eastern traditions in a certain way. There are very many of these close parallels between the Western scriptures, particularly describing Sophia or the wisdom in Book of Wisdom and other of the Western spiritual writings and scriptural writings, and also in the Eastern traditions. So as we know, obviously, creation is only possible through the communion between both aspects of God. And as I keep emphasizing that very important articulation in Genesis chapter 1, 26, 27, where God self-identifies as both male and female. And basically, it is through that creative power between the male and female that the entire cosmos is created. So in a certain sense, it takes two to tango on the divine plane as well as the human plane, in a certain sense, that humanity is created in the image of God, which means that God is male and female, just as we are. So this is important on Mother's Day. It's a wonderful thing to take your mother to lunch on Mother's Day, or as we do it nowadays, to have a gourmet Zoom dinner together. It's a wonderful thing, and of course there's nothing wrong with it. But we need to recognize that this is part of a deeper issue of honoring the feminine, not only on this one day a year, but really reclaiming the feminine half of God and reclaiming this at the core of our tradition, because this is one of the greatest blind spots in all religions. It's one of the greatest blind spots in Western religion for sure. And one of the reasons that young people and others have flocked to the Eastern religions is because of that gender parity that is so evident, where you have the gods and the goddesses, and you have that essentially the divine consort, where God is portrayed as a combination of male and female deities. And this is something that the human soul naturally yearns for, because you could say it's a reflection of us, or we are a reflection of it. But in a certain sense, if in fact we are made in the image of God, then in our hearts and souls, this reality of how we are made must also be reflected on the divine plane. And so this is one of the deepest, really, wounds and blind spots in Western religion and really in Western civilization. And we see it not only in our religion, but also in our philosophy. So both Aristotle and Plato regarded the female as inferior. And the understanding of the female as inherently inferior has been instrumental in really most civilizations across the globe, even in those that have the gender parity in their spiritual, theologies, like Hinduism and Buddhism. The reality on the ground is far from it. And so there is this, systemic suppression of women, but it does come in the West. It is supported by our theologies, which have in certain ways written the feminine out of the picture. And so what happens is that if we have half a God, only the male side, then what we've done is we've cut God in half. And in cutting God in half, we've cut ourselves in half. We have split off the feminine from ourselves. Now, of course, not entirely, or we wouldn't survive. Our bodies have survived, but our souls are wounded. Archetypally and spiritually, we have devalued and demeaned the feminine in innumerable ways. We marginalize feminine ways of knowing in favor of masculine ways. We have consequently valued girls and women as lesser beings than boys and men. This is true across the civilizations of the world, and we need to heal this split in each of us and in the world in order to become whole, in order for humanity to truly soar. As it is said, a bird cannot fly if one wing is much bigger than the other wing. The two wings need to be of the same size and in balance, and then that bird can really take off. The same is true for the human family. So as we also know that the feminine half of God and the suppression of it is closely tied to the suppression of women in the church and in religious history. And again, we see this in essentially all religions. So it's not merely in the West, in which the voices and the spiritual authority of women have been suppressed in religions. And the scriptures are written from the male point of view. Women are often cut out entirely. I mean, just one example of this would be the covenant between God and Abram, where God basically said that the covenant between him and Abram would be marked by circumcision. And so that was the covenant. The covenant was marked by a physical alteration of the one part of the male body that women don't have. So women were cut out of the sacred covenant with God. Now, whether that was intentional or how that happened, one can go into that, and there's lots of speculation about it. But that's just one example of how women were not included in the sacred covenant with their Lord, in a certain sense. In Christianity, the suppression of women's voices and spiritual authority effectively began on the day of Christ's resurrection, when among all his disciples, Mary was the one who witnessed the resurrection, as is recounted in all four of the canonical Gospels. Yet this fact has been rarely emphasized and has been written out of the liturgy in many, many churches. And when Mary saw Jesus resurrected, he told her, as you know, to proclaim the resurrection, to tell the other disciples, which means he essentially gave her the task, the prophetic task of proclaiming the resurrection. Now, as many of you know, Mary Magdalene has recently been essentially recast as the most advanced disciple of Jesus. And I think this is such a significant shift from the traditional representation of Mary Magdalene as a fallen woman, as a prostitute, and really as one of the lesser disciples. I mean, you didn't normally think of her as one of the 12, right? She wasn't one of the 12. And so the 12 were all men. And so this new understanding of Mary, which has come through some of the Gnostic Gospels, is really a very radical awakening. And so just a very brief review of this, I think, is really important, particularly on Mother's Day. The image of Mary, by the way, as a prostitute came from Pope Gregory the Great, not so great, I would say in this case, conjured up in an image in a homily in 591 AD, in which he put out that possibility, and it stuck. And it became the standard story about Mary Magdalene. But what happens from these sacred scriptures, particularly the Gnostic Gospel of Mary, which was discovered in 1896, it didn't get published until 1956. Isn't that interesting? 60 years for it to be published. And there's a whole story behind that, which I'm still researching. It was revolutionary, which is one reason, because it showed that Mary was a more advanced disciple. She gave teachings. She received teachings from Jesus that the other disciples did not receive. And in that gospel, she shares some of those teachings with the disciples and gives a whole kind of cosmic revelation to the disciples, to the other disciples. So it shows that Mary herself embodied a profound understanding beyond the understanding of the other disciples, such as Peter and Andrew. And what is revealed through these Gospels is that Mary Magdalene emerges as essentially representing Sophia, as the female counterpart to Jesus representing the Logos. Now, and also in the Gospel of Philip, it makes it very clear that Mary was and my Greek is pitiful here, but it's a word koinonios, probably mispronounced. But it's basically translated, this term is translated as partner, associate, comrade, companion. Mary was the close, beloved companion of Jesus. And in some of these early Gnostic Gospels, just a couple of quotes. In the Pistis Sophia, it says, Jesus says, "Mary, thou blessed one, whom I will perfect in all mysteries, of those of the height, discourse in openness, thou whose heart is raised to the kingdom of heaven more than all thy brethren." And then in the dialogue of the Savior, Mary is chosen as one of 3 disciples for this unique dialogue with Jesus. And the text actually attributes to Mary some sayings that are found in the New Testament attributed to Jesus. In particular, that the suffering of the day is sufficient unto the day, and that disciples resemble their teachers. And then the narrator in this gospel commends Mary and says, she spoke this utterance as a woman who understood everything. So, so Mary models the true courage of discipleship, the strength of spiritual character, and prophetic visionary insight. And she, in the Gospel of Mary, Thomas, Philip, and these other Gospels, these have restored Mary Magdalene as the deepest disciple of Jesus, as the apostle of the apostles, as it's often said. And this apostle of the apostles is true in a deeper sense than just the fact that she was the one who witnessed the resurrection and proclaimed it, but also has to do with that Mary understood the deep transmission of Jesus Christ and embodied it herself. The Vatican finally recognized Mary as the apostle of the apostles in 2016, which was a very significant step forward in elevating her status to not only one of the disciples, but in effect, acknowledging that in some ways she was the most advanced disciple. Isn't that remarkable? That has been hidden for, almost 2,000 years. So this is a very, very significant development. And as you probably know, Cynthia Bourgeault has written about this. There's several books by several different authors. Cynthia Bourgeault is one of them. And she basically speaks about the relationship between Jesus and Mary as the path of alchemical transformation in the depths of the heart. Through the process of kenosis, self-emptying, in which each of them lays down, in a sense, their life for the other. But that's the essence of it, of this lover and beloved, this sacred alchemy. And in the bridal chamber of the heart, one is restored to the fullness of being, to one's true self. And one goes through this process of transformation in the service of love. and this opening of love in the service of transformation. It works both ways. So it's very profound. And then one moves from that duality to one of union and communion. Another author, Megan Watterson, has written quite kind of bombastically about this and powerfully. And she says, the Gnostic Jesus was destroyed and his beloved Mary Magdalene was reduced to a prostitute. So this is kind of acknowledging what happened in church history. And then she says that women's spiritual authority has been hard won, opposed or flat out rejected from the first to the 21st century. And only now are we beginning to reclaim this lost history. So it's time to recognize that here we are really bridging these differences as we balance the masculine and feminine. We're really uniting the opposites and coming into the fullness of the expression of spiritual life on earth. And thus we unite masculine and feminine, light and dark, conscious and unconscious, finite and infinite, self and soul. And then we come into basically a living, fully integrated expression of divine love. And some of you may be familiar with the 2018 film, Mary Magdalene, which portrays Mary as Jesus's senior and closest disciple. And it's based on these Gnostic Gospels. Now, part of what also we mentioned, I think previously in one of the talks in the Gospel of Philip, Mary is portrayed there also as Jesus's closest disciple, this koinyonos. And there is a statement there that is very significant where Philip says, none can be free unless they receive a power which is both masculine and feminine. And so in some sense, what that means is if we do not actually open to the full truth of the feminine side of God, we cannot even receive the masculine side. We cannot receive the full transmission and become ultimately free. And part of the reason for bringing these, and at one point it says in the Gospel of Philip, Christ came to heal this separation between man and woman, between masculine and feminine. So this is very important to realize. The mission to set this balance correct did not start in the 60s with the women's movement. It did not start in 1848 in Seneca Falls when, Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony held that prophetic meeting that launched the women's rights movements in the United States. It did not start in the 1700s when Mary Wollstonecraft launched the women's movement in Britain. This started centuries beforehand. Another very important effort in this direction is the Kabbalah and the Zohar, what is often seen as sort of Jewish mysticism, the core of Jewish mysticism. And this came in the 12th and 13th centuries. And in Judaism, the Kabbalah is, and this, by the way, comes from Daniel C. Match. So this isn't Will Keepan making this up. This is based on very advanced Jewish scholarship into the Kabbalah and the Zohar. Daniel C. Matt spent 18 years delving into deep translations of both the Kabbalah and the Zohar. And basically what he says is that the Kabbalah is an entire critique of patriarchal religion. The goal of religion, he says, is to unite the masculine and feminine. Very similar to what the Gospel of Philip says. And he says that Kabbalah is an entire visionary, imaginative meditation on Genesis chapter 1, 25, 26. And that in particular, there are three primary revelations from the Kabbalah. The first is that God is infinite. And the articulation of God as the Ein Sof, the absolute, unconditioned, uncompounded nature of the Godhead is very similar to what we find in the Eastern mystical traditions. As Meister Eckhart said, theologies and theologians will quarrel across the traditions, but the mystics of all religions speak with one voice. And we find this here then in the Kabbalah, in terms of the nature of God. The second revelation is that God must be male and female. And the way that Daniel Matt put it, which I didn't know this when I gave my talk last year called God is half female, but he specifically says God is half male and half female. So there is that fundamental gender quality to the divinity, which is also present in us because we're made in the image of the divinity. And then, so that's the second one. And then the third revelation is that God needs us. This is so important. The entire purpose then of the Kabbalah, and it's what are called the 10 Sephirot, is to unite the masculine and feminine. Now, I'm going to now share screen and show you. Let us hope this works. Here it is. Hang on for a second. And if I can move, just give me a second here. I have to get to the slideshow mode right here. And I believe that you should now have on your screen a schematic map of the Kabbalah. So what you see here, and we won't go into the details, but you've all seen this, I'm sure, at some points. It's called the Tree of Life. And it has these different nodes, very similar, you could say, to the chakra system in some ways of the Eastern traditions, and also probably related to the 12 powers of the soul in certain ways. There are these different esoteric systems in the different spiritual understandings of the human being. But the essence of this is that the whole goal here is to unite the masculine and the feminine sides, and that this cannot take place without human beings, that basically God needs human beings. The union between masculine and feminine requires human beings to stimulate the divine romance. This is again from Daniel Matt, in which he says, every good deed a person performs stimulates that divine union. Every evil or mindless deed interrupts that union. So in this sense, God literally depends on us. So this is one of the radical insights of the Kabbalah. And if we're going to talk about God, we have to balance the patriarchal depiction, which has dominated Western religion, with the feminine side. And then he speaks at length about some of the divine couples in here, and I won't go into detail. It's very rich and profound. But he talks about the Shekhinah and the Mahut in terms of the divine presence, and then the divine couple of the Chokhmah and the Bina, which are seen at the top of the chart, but you may not be able to see that in detail, so don't worry about it. But basically, there is this whole esoteric understanding of the human being in the Kabbalah. And one might ask, what is the relationship? Excuse me, I got something in my throat. Thank you. What is the relationship? I mean, I'm sure you've all seen this before, and you look at it, I have, and it's like, wow, that's complex, it's intricate. It's like, how does that relate to, just the regular old Trinity? I mean, what's that have to do with it? Here's what we've all been taught. This is the kind of the structure of divinity. It's clear, it's simple, it's straightforward, and it is, as we know, preached across the Christian traditions. It's a lot, easier to grok than that. However, as we've been saying, it's incomplete. And in particular, what's missing is this. And I'll go through this quickly because some of you have seen these parts of this before. But this is the part that's missing, that there is a complete parallel to the traditional masculine trinity, which is called the Sophianic Trinity. And we really need to take this seriously, as I'm saying. The Sophianic Trinity has this mother, God as the eternal mother, and then the Holy Soul, which is also called the Shekhinah, which is the feminine presence or spirit, in the Hebrew Bible, and then the actual daughter. And what's so striking to me about those three roles is that quite independently, in the Eastern tradition, the great spiritual master Sri Aurobindo, in writing about the Divine Mother, he said there are three aspects of the Divine Mother. The transcendent aspect, in which she stands above all the worlds, so that would refer to the mother at the top, the eternal mother. And then the universal aspect, in which she creates and sustains all beings. And so this would be the Holy Soul. It's that supreme soul, or the Shekinah, which basically inheres in all things. And then finally, in the individual, where she embodies these two larger ways of her being and mediates between the human personality and the divine nature. And that would be in this part that we're calling the daughter here. And these actually can be found, scriptural support can be found for these. Just for example, for the eternal mother, from the Book of Wisdom. She rises from the power of God, a clear effluence from the glory of the Almighty. She is the radiance. This is what we were reading before, that streams from everlasting light, the flawless mirror of the active power of God. And then for the daughter aspect, her skill made all things. She spans the world in power from end to end and gently orders all things. So we see these scriptural parallels between the Eastern and Western representations of the Divine Mother. Now, if we then go a little further and put them together, so we take this and this, if you turn them on their side and put them together, we get this. And this is essentially the Star of David, if you will. And this is understood in Jewish mysticism to be the essence of the meaning of the Star of David, as this interpenetration of masculine and feminine. And we see a similar image in Hinduism with the with what's called the Shaktona, with the interpenetrating triangles, like in the Sri Yantra. So now, if we just review again, here's the traditional Christian understanding, right? Father, God the Father, Holy Spirit, and then Christ the Son who incarnates. We have a precise parallel with the Sophianic Trinity, where God the Mother incarnates as the Holy Soul, as the daughter, Sophia, wisdom. And when we put those together, again, we have this. Or when they incarnate, then this is the picture that, to me, is the basic correction of Christian theology. And I say that seriously. I think that without this, the Christian theology is really an inaccurate, one-sided story, which has not only been incredibly damaging, but basically is archetypally mistaken, and so leaves us hanging, leaves us, as I said, sort of spiritually with only half the picture. This is the picture. This is the correct Christian picture, where we have essentially God as male and female, as it says in the scripture, and then God incarnates through Christ and Sophia into human male and female. Of course, Jesus and Mary. But ultimately, every man and woman is basically also a manifestation, as Jesus said, quoting the psalm somewhere, I think, about, did I not tell you ye are gods? So we are intended to be walking male and female deities in a sense. That's not to overinflate ourselves, but it is our true ontological status. So now if we just play with this picture a little bit more, because this, if we go back to this isn't the whole story, because at the Father, Mother at the top there, the divinity is split in two, but there's a higher level at which those two merge into one, where the Father and Mother are actually becoming one. And we see this, so going from this, where the Father and Mother are separate, we can imagine then a higher one, where the two become one. And as above, so below. So we'll have the same thing happening below, where Sophia and Christ merge together, those two kind of archetypes, if you will, merge together in the depths of the human soul, the masculine and feminine dimensions, if you will. So this then, and actually in Hinduism, we have for a specific deity that refers to this cosmic union of masculine and feminine called Ardhanishvara, in which Shiva and Shakti or Parvati actually dissolve out of their separateness into one deity, which is half male, half female, but they're merged. They're no longer separate, they're merged into one being. And so that being is essentially that point at the very top, which, as I put in Hinduism on the right, Ardhanishvara, in the Jewish mysticism, that's given the name Keter, or the crown. Keter means crown. And then at the bottom, the correlate there is given the name in Hebrew, Yesod. So we have this structure of the Keter at the top, the Yesod at the bottom. And if we then just put in the full context here, what we have is the Godhead being the absolute beyond the Keter, that's the unconditioned absolute infinite, the Ein Sof. And then down below we have the Malchut, which is the creation. And then what we've done here is we actually have reconstructed, in a certain sense, the whole structure of the Kabbalah. And if we add the Hebrew labels there, we get this. And so if we go back to this, we essentially have from here, from this restoration of the true nature of divinity, the masculine and feminine sides, then it's a pretty straightforward step from here to here to here, which with the Hebrew names is this. And so now the Kabbalah makes sense. And we see at the very heart of it is this sacred communion of masculine and feminine at the core of the mystical tradition of Judaism, but it's also the core of the mystical tradition of Christianity. So that is, to me, very rich. And this helped me to understand the Kabbalah in a whole new way that I never did before, because it always looked to me like a jumble, whereas this to me gives it an ordering and a kind of intelligibility and a mystical grandeur, where we see that these are, in fact, that the whole Kabbalah and the whole essence of the Christian theology is really this sacred communion between the masculine and feminine dimensions of both the divine being and the human being. And we are meant to be reflections down here of that divinity up there, so to speak. So coming back now to close on Mother's Day, I just need to figure out how to stop my screen share. How do I stop screen share? Garrett to the rescue. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. We're all still learning our online wisdom here. I'd like to just bring this to a close with a wonderful prayer from the great Saint Ramakrishna, from the Hindu saint, because he had such a profound connection with the Divine Mother. And he literally not only worshiped her for many years, but essentially embodied her and became her, if you will. And so he has a very deep revelation of the feminine side of God. And so I'll close with this kind of celebratory kind of praise of the divine feminine. And of course, he refers to as Ma, Jai Ma. So this is from Ramakrishna. Jai Ma, you have come to us from so far. You are the supreme of the supreme. You are the truth of life, the very manifestation of love and truth. You are the stars and the reflection in the water. You are the sun rising and the sun setting. Everywhere, your radiance is soothing to those who perceive you. everywhere. You are the root of all goodness and all well-being. You serve us with so many kinds of sweet nectar. So happy Divine Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all of us, the mothers and the non-mothers, because we're all mothers of creating our own lives. So blessings. Have a wonderful Mother's Day.
It's very beautiful. That was perfect to hear. And going back to the meditation, talking about the idea of lineage, and I had another song I was going to sing, but I'm going to do this one instead. So I read once in a Reader's Digest book at a doctor's office that there comes a time in every woman's life when she forgives her mother everything. And it seemed like a nice thing to remember. And I was standing on the stairs having an argument with my, I think she'd be 9 or 10 years old daughter. And as I turned away, I'd asked her to go and clean her room. She had rolled her eyes at me. And I realized that I remembered rolling my eyes at my mom. And I remembered the Reader's Digest thing, that there comes a time in every woman's life when she forgives her mother everything. So the meditation was so very beautiful. And I'd like to sing the song. It's called Roll Your Eyes. Your mother says your room's a mess. There's a pile of clothes where you last undressed, but for you it's fine, well, more or less. So you rolled your eyes. And your mother says, is your homework done? Then she makes you finish what you've begun, when you'd rather go and have your fun. And you rolled your eyes. 'Cause she doesn't see that you're more than 4 years old, and you're making good decisions with no need to be told. Oh, forgive your mom a little bit if she just hasn't noticed yet that you know your mind and your plans are set, and you just can't wait to fly. And when I was young, I was just the same, an opinionated royal pain. No matter what, when she called my name, I'd roll my eyes. A point to argue every night. My blacks were black, my whites were white. I was so damn sure I was always right. And I'd roll my eyes. 'Cause she didn't see I was more than 4 years old. I was making good decisions with no need to be told. Oh, forgive your mom a little bit if she just hasn't noticed yet that you know your mind and your plans are set, and you just can't wait to fly. She would cross the highest river to see you safe on the other side. For you, she'd walk 1,000 miles. you know your mind and your plans are set, and you just can't wait to fly. So listen to these words I say. You'll hold your baby in your arms one day. Right now you laugh and turn away and roll your eyes. But your little one turns 7, 8, 9, and she is as tall as you. What happened to the time? Where's that little kid who once was mine? Oh no, she rolled her eyes. And you might have missed that she's more than 4 years old, and she's making good decisions with no need to be told. So forgive your mom a little bit if she just hasn't noticed yet that you know your mind and your plans are set, and you found your wings to fly. And you Thank you.
Well, welcome back. Well, welcome back. No, I'm coming back. I've got to unmute myself. There we go. Can you hear me now? Of course you can. Okay, so, Edith, you are a poet. You are such a deep poet. Thank you so much for that. And of course, thank you, Will, and thank you, Cynthia. We now turn to the part of our service where we prepare to support Unity for the work that it does, for the music that it brings, for the wisdom and insights that it brings into our daily life. And as we prepare our offerings, I want to share with you just a brief few thoughts from Charles Fillmore, the founder of Unity. Fillmore says, "Deny that lack has any place or reality in your thought or your affairs, and affirm plenty as the only appearance." He says, "Praise what you have, be it ever so little, and insist that it is constantly growing larger." Whatever you have, you can affirm that it's good and that it's growing larger. And then he says, "The spiritual ethers are filled with plenty," which we know from the teachings of Jesus. In fact, he said, "I have come so that you should experience life and experience it more abundantly." So affirm together with me, the spiritual ethers are filled with plenty. The spiritual ethers are filled with plenty. Prosperity fills the air. Prosperity fills the air. I have abundance for every need. I have abundance for every need. And as these thoughts radiate out into the universe, remember that Jesus said, "Ask and it shall be given. Knock and the door shall be opened." Ask believing that you have received it, and it will be established unto you. So we know in this moment that we are supplied by forces, by the spirit of the universe. We need only accept it. And so let us now, as you contemplate your offerings, turn to our offering blessing and all affirm together our offering blessing. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And of course, now that we're online, we don't have trays to hand around in the seats. And instead, we turn to the technology. And in this instance, we have a giving platform known as Tithely, which makes giving easier than ever. You simply download the app and never worry about writing checks or entering credit card numbers again. or you can simply go to the site. We can also give by PayPal. And the links to do that will be located in your chat window. You'd simply click them and you can do that. Now, if you haven't signed up on Tithely before, there's will be a link that will allow you to go in and register. And once you're registered, all you need to do is either go to the site or bring it up on your phone, bring the app up on your phone, and you can quickly and easily give. So with that said, we do want to let you know that it is your donations. And of course, as the slide shows, you can make your donations by check and mail them to Unity, or drop them off in person, whatever is most convenient for you. Most important thing to remember is that if you go to your chat window at the end of the service, you'll find all the links to do this. So you don't need to worry about remembering it right now. Just simply go to those links after the service and it will be simple and easy to follow. And so now I'd like to just remind you that prayer support is available after the service. Just as it was at the Unity Center, now you can come to a special Zoom meeting that's been created that allows you to pray together with our specially trained chaplains who can pray for things that you'd like to have happen in your life, things people that need healing, things that you would like to manifest in your life. And our chaplains today are Marilyn Norrie, Shirley Vollett, and Raymond Lancaster. And for prayer support, as I mentioned, you simply need to leave this Unity meeting and then log into the Prayer Chaplain Zoom meeting. And you can find the links, as I mentioned, in your chat, or you can go to Friday's Unity newsletter, the same one that you used probably to log on to this Sunday service. Right below those links are the links to get into the Prayer Chaplain meeting. And either that, or you can also use the Unity IDs, which are in the newsletter or in your chat. So easy to get to. And in a moment, the service will end. And if you want to join the chaplains, you can go off and do that, as just discussed. If you need to leave, of course, you can do that as we close out here. We're going to close with a prayer. And those that want to go into the breakout rooms, we will be just asking you to stay here at the end, and you'll automatically go into the breakout rooms. So with that said, let us now just put our hands over our hearts like this, and all together affirm our peace affirmation. All together now, let there be peace on earth, and may it begin with me. And so it is. And so now, our prayer for protection, all together. The light of God surrounds us. The power of God enfolds us. Excuse me, let's start that again. Right from the top, all together now. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And so now over to Will and Cynthia for some closing thoughts.
What a blessed day today. And as I was talking and my throat got stuck, I thought, gosh, you know, I'm speaking such heresies in the eyes of the patriarchal forces that they're trying to strangle me and not let this word come out. So anyway, my closing word is, there's a line from Book of Wisdom, so beautiful. She taught me what is secret and what is manifest. For Sophia, who has fashioned all things, has taught me. So the Divine Mother will teach us what is secret and what is manifest, because the secrets of the universe are in her bosom. And as we go there, she will meet us there and reveal those secrets.
And it is our birthright to reclaim the sacred feminine, the sacred mother within ourselves. So be well, be joyous on this Mother's Day. Go in peace and go safely.
God bless. Divine Mother bless. Thank you.
And if you'd like to unmute yourself so you can just as a community say hello to each other as those of you leave, and others will be staying, and others will be going to the prayer chaplains, but you're welcome to unmute and just say hello.
Blessings, everyone.
Hello.
Happy Mother's Day, everyone.
Happy
Thank you
Mother's Day.
all.
So nice to see so many of you.
And you might want to put your view, if you look in the top right of your screen, into what's called gallery mode. I guess it's 9 squares. If you click that, you can see each other all too.
I didn't catch what he said.
Hey, Ed, how are you doing?
Good to see everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Margaret.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Jim.
Hi, everyone.
We welcome you to stay on for a little fellowship afterwards if
Hi,
you
Greg.
have time.
Good to see you, Kathy.
Hi,
Bob
good to see
Roy. Hi.
Hi, Kathy. Glad to see you again.
Disappear into their.
Thank you, Rita.
Hi, Kathy.
See you in the breakouts.
Yes.
Yeah, it's still coming down to it, it looks like, and Garrett working behind the scenes to get us into our breakout rooms. Welcome,
There
everyone.
was a lot of work, yeah. It's gone into this.
The hamsters are running furiously on the wheel right now.
It's like ducks paddling right under the water, so it's going well. So welcome, everyone, to the coffee time, the tea time together.
I even have a coffee.
Yeah, there you go. We just, yeah. In a moment, Garrett will beam us around into some small groups. And Garrett, what size,
Sorry, Cynthia, didn't quite catch that.
what size groups do you have us in?
Groups of 4,
Okay,
4
so
or
this
5, yeah.
this is the time for you just to share what's on your heart, where you are, maybe what touched you in the talk today, to bring forth the feminine in your sharings, whatever. And then we'll come back as a full group. One heads up that Will and I have to leave right at 1. Today is Will's mama's birthday, and even though she transcended this physical form a few months ago, the family's getting together to honor her and honor her birthday.
Yeah, so I forgot to mention that. It has a special meaning for me. Mother's Day, this Mother's Day, my mother's birthday.
And so we'll be
Memphis.
a few minutes before